Welcome to Calvary Chapel Greenville, Texas. On a wonderful Wednesday night. Hold on. I didn't think to take a drink before starting. So, anyways, hey, some announcements that we have going on, and I would like to tell you about all of them. Say welcome to Calvary Chapel Greenville. Right here on your screen, we are on or behind the double glass doors. That happens on Wednesday nights, Tuesday evenings, and Friday mornings. That's where we are. And if you're looking for us on a Sunday morning, there's a Calvary Chapel sign bolted to the wall. That's really where we are. They've put up some really cool sign here, so that if you walk in the double glass doors, you'll see a sign that says Calvary Chapel that way and Kavanaugh that way. So they've actually got you squared away. We're good there. So we invite you, if you want to do that, we'd love to see you here. We have a conference coming up, men's conference, Set Your Mind on Faith. I have the cool cards. They were shipped to us here. So if you're a man, we're going to be picky, sorry. And you could look at, actually, there's information on the back I didn't know. Interesting. So I just got these. So I saw the front picture, but we already have that. What you see here is what you see there, what that is. But there's information at 7:30 to 2 p.m. on July 18th at Calvary Chapel Southwest Metro. If you want to just show up there, you're like, man, I want to go, but I don't want to ride with you losers, then do that. We're pretty happy for you to do that as well. So there you go. Next thing we have women's ministry that happens on Tuesday evenings at 5:30. 5:30. Good times? Alrighty. And you're going through 1 Corinthians? There you go. I can't see that sign, but I know it. Special Wednesday coming up. I can't remember what it's on. It's your relationship with God, essentially. I'll get you the better title, working title of it very soon. See here, Anchor Bereans, we do that Friday mornings at 6 a.m. Is that too early? Yes, it is. But you know what? It's fantastic, good stuff, and we encourage you to be there if you can. Wednesday, we're going through 2 Chronicles. We're going to be done with 2 Chronicles here in a few weeks, and then we're going to move on to Ezra. We might have a, so here's what's complicated for me. Before I was a Christian now, I love music, and I've always just really enjoyed music. And so now there was a band in the 90s called Better Than Ezra. Yeah, it's just I don't know why they named the band that, but they've got a really cool song called Good. Look it up, it's fun. But anyway, so every time I see Ezra, I'm like, yeah, Better Than Ezra. Like, at some point, I'm actually going to get curious enough to look that up, but not today. See here, what else we got? We've moved communion to the first Sunday, so if you're looking for that, that's when that happens. July 5th, which is a couple of weeks away, we're going to have the fellowship meal with grilled meat and assorted sides. So looking forward to that part of that. And then the book of Acts Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. So if you want to come see us on the book of Acts part, it's fantastic. Enjoying that study too. I seem to enjoy all of them. I don't know why I always say, like, oh man, this is a really good book of the Bible. They always are. And I haven't come across one that I didn't like, it turns out. So whether that's good, bad, or whatever, I have no idea. I just think what it is I'm happy to see God's word. I'm happy to look at it, read it, and so there are books that I would probably put higher over the other ones as far as ones that I can go back and reread, and it just seems like I keep digging things out of. And so everybody has their favorite book of the Bible, I'm sure. If you don't, then you're weird, but that's okay. But one that really communicates to you and kind of causes the bridge to be gap, or the gap to be bridged. However, that apparently because you got to say things backwards today. No making fun of the pastor. Just saying. Just saying. Anyways, so we're in 2 Chronicles chapter 33 this evening. We had King Hezekiah. King Hezekiah has made his departure. He's no longer part of the category. He's no longer doing his thing. Now his son Manasseh is in his place. Now, if you're slightly confused because, wait a second, isn't there a tribe of Manasseh? You'd be correct. He does not come from the tribe of Manasseh. He comes from the tribe of Judah. So there's a clarification that you have, except it's like, well, we're going to name you from the other tribe. And you know what? I didn't name the guy. Don't blame me. Just what happens. So if you recall, Hezekiah asked to continue living. He was told he was going to die, and he was going to die soon. And so he said, well, can you let me live longer? And so God gave him 15 more years in life. And so that puts a dot together. We talked about it a little bit last week as far as was that a good or a bad thing? And what we do find out is that Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign. So that means that Hezekiah had Manasseh as a son after the extension of life. Good, bad, or whatever, I don't know. I don't think that that's the measurement of what we're looking at, although we'll find out that he's not a very good king. So, beginning our passage now in verse 1. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. Evil in the sight of the Lord, according to the abominations of the nations, whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. For he found and worshipped all the host of heaven and served them. So he doesn't start well. He sure doesn't, anyways. Just a couple of reminders of things. Who in here has never heard me define the word abomination? You can shut your ears if you don't like it. Have you never heard me go over this? Well, you'll remember if you did after here in a second. So, how do we define abomination? It's something that's horrible and bad and all that stuff, right? So that's easy enough. The way we would understand it, because this is something that's really unappealing, something that's bad, and something that's sickening. Let's call it. So, in order to understand the abomination, let's describe it in language that helps us understand it. Have you ever thrown up? Right? So my wife gets on to me for this. When the kids were young and they'd throw up, I'm like, I can't do it. I cannot do it. Because what happens is that smell gets in my nose and it's like, it's over. My stomach just can't handle the smell. And I don't know why that is. It's just something that's there. And we've had many arguments over this, like, well, you got to clean this up. Like, well, I can't clean this up. And have you ever had somebody accidentally throw up on you? And so what is it? I mean, now you have the smell, you have the touch and the taste, or like, hopefully not the taste, but you have the touch at least and the smell. What does it make you feel like doing? It gives you the urge to regurge, right? So if you want to define abomination in a way that we can understand easily, it's that feeling when somebody's thrown up on you. That bad. See, it's not just kind of bad, it's horrible. And so as this Manasseh, his little 12-year-old self, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to the abominations of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. So what was it that the nations of Israel did? I mean, not the nations of Israel, but in the Canaan land, the nations that were there before Israel showed up. What was it that they did? What was the primary thing that was offensive to God? Baal worship, sure, but there was a specific part of Baal worship. Giving you the clues if you've been around Calvary Chapel for a little bit. There was one thing that they did that was pretty gross. Sacrifice babies. I was trying to. Well, she's making hand signals back there, and I'm confused on them. But I think you're good with sacrifice babies, right? You're not good with it, but you understand. Okay. Well, I can't see behind all this stuff. Anyways, so that was one of the main things that they were doing, and so it would seem odd. Well, let me say this. I've had so many conversations with so many people who either support abortion or don't like it. But the ones that support it, and they're like, well, I disagree with the stance that you take. Oh, that's fine. Disagree with all you want to. But I've learned to ask a question like this. When is it okay to kill a baby? And yeah, well, the never is the right answer, of course. And people say, oh man, I'd never kill a baby. Okay, well then how do you do an abortion, right? Because that's a baby. It just ain't popped out yet. And so that's the biggest thing of it. So it's kind of a difficult task because, like, if somebody's gone through something, let's say there's a lady who's had an abortion and now she feels this guilt over this, right? And it's like, do you continue to punish her for the rest of her life? Or we see that she's got the guilt and she says, you know what, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to get my life right. Then you love that woman and you try to help her walk through that time, right? Because we're people who forgive. God forgave us, we can forgive others. This is going to be important tonight because that's kind of what's kind of woven into all of this stuff. And so, according to the abominations, the people or the nations whom the Lord had drove out before the people of Israel. So, this is the kind of stuff that he's doing. His dad got knocked down all the high places. There's no longer any idol worship. That stuff's gone by the wayside. But here he is, kind of trying to reinstitute it. It says in verse 3, and he says, for he rebuilt the high places that his father Hezekiah had broken down, and he erected altars to the Baals, and made Asheroth, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. So this was his mindset. He wants to set up the things that his father had taken down. Now, you may find this interesting, but how many times have children of parents done the opposite or done something different? And that's a little too common, isn't it? I would like to think that I'm not exactly like my parents. There's things that are different, things that are the same, you know. Uh, but for the most part, I've made decisions that would, well, at the time I made the decisions, maybe they were counter to what my parents would have chosen. My dad would never have facial hair. He thought it looked like dirty, nasty hippies. And so before he passed away, he got to enjoy all my goodness, right? And because I'm like a dirty, nasty hippie. Um, he would just, that was like a prejudice that he had. So it's like, well, was I being disobedient to grow a beard out? Well, no, not necessarily. It's just something he didn't like, he didn't care for. And what we'll find though is children will do opposite sometimes of what their parents do. They'll kind of go their own way. And somebody else is no different. He does things a little bit differently, actually in a negative way. Going now down to verse 4, it says, and he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord had said, in Jerusalem shall my name be forever. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord, and used fortune telling and necromancers. He did much evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger. So now we kind of get the diagram of what he's doing. One of the things that he's doing, he burned his sons as an offering. What does that mean? That's that Baal worship. That's when they put the statues there with the arms out, they get the arms blazing hot. It's usually incorporated with some kind of a sexual orgy. So all this massive party things going on, and you put your baby onto these burning hot arms. That baby cries. Have you noticed that babies cry when they don't feel comfortable? And they die. Does it sound horrible? Again, so let me ask you, which is worse, me defining the word abomination the way that I do, or telling you that? Like, can you tell the difference? It's hard, isn't it? And that's exactly the point. For God, it was exactly the point. It's like, it's hard to describe which way would be the, which way is a good thing. We think it's, like, again, going back to the abortion thing, it's, oh, so it's fine because it's not a baby yet. Oh, well, it is. Well, but it's hiding. That's the only difference. Imagine the depravity. I mean, don't get me wrong, abortion is bad enough, but imagine the depravity, because I think it's a step further to take a live baby. eh, Okay, mothers, you can all agree with me on this one. When baby came out, did you look at that baby and say, "Oh, what an ugly kid"? No, that's the best looking thing you've ever seen in your life. Birth is the craziest thing. God has just done some weird things with that. I noticed with my wife, during the birthing process, she was a very violent, horrible person. Her body was going through all sorts. She ripped my shirt off or tried to. And it was just like this really bad situation. She hurt. Things were not good. And then the baby came out, and she had amnesia about the 10 minutes before that. And she didn't care about she was in pain anymore. She has this precious, most perfect thing. And it's like, it was the most amazing thing ever. And then a couple of years go by, and she goes, "I want to have another kid." And I just hit a weird panic attack because I remember that. And she didn't. Well, she might have had a small memory about it, but the things that she told me when that was going on, I figured this was one and done. But it happened again. And why is that? Because God blessed her in such a way, like with the baby, it's an amazing thing. So with that kind of a thinking, with a small human being who can change the mindset of a woman that quickly, how could you ever sacrifice it on burning. It just doesn't make sense to me. I just think about the love of a mother when I see that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how could a mother do that? Well, you have to be pretty sick and pretty depraved. How can a father do that? I know when Ian was born, it was just like, it was weird to me because now it's like, don't touch that boy. I'll kill you. And I became hyper protective instantly. It was just like this switch that flipped, kind of like her piece about having been like, tortured for birth or whatever like that. We both had a switch that flipped, right? And it all originated around this child that was our huge blessing. In fact, the Bible will tell us that the children are a blessing. And so it doesn't make sense, this, but that's what they did. But not only did he get into the child sacrifice, of course, he used fortune telling. Uh, they've got a place down the road here. And, it's like this, the lady's probably not very well off. And like, if you're a fortune teller, yeah, shouldn't you like be able to like hook up some lottery numbers or something? So it's like, okay, probably not good. One of the things that I know this, and I know this to be true, is there's demonic realm involved in some of that stuff. And so some of the quote unquote fortune telling is because they can have information on you, not personally gained, but demonically gained. Uh, we have a tendency to try to shut down the spiritual world and say, well, we can explain everything away, but you cannot, because there is a supernatural thing that you and I cannot see. There are angels who function, and we don't know exactly how they do it. Demons function. There's all these different things that are going on in the spiritual realm that you and I cannot see, but you know what? People can gain access to that. And so this is kind of the thing. So where was the fortune telling coming from? I would guess to you as to be a demon, but he gets into that. And omens. Here's the one, sorcery. Does that sound like a good thing? Well, that's like, unless you're a witch and you're like, oh, I totally like sorcery. Normally, that's not going to be a good thing. So he's getting into things that would be counter or opposite of what God's in. And that's really the whole thing. The mediums. The medium's the one who's going to talk to your dead Aunt Nancy or whatever like that. And so you're like, well, okay, well, let me talk to her. Again, demonic influence. I would say that they're not talking to the dead person. You what? Well, right. So absent from the body, or absent from the body is present with the Lord. That kind of a mindset. So if your Aunt Nancy was somebody who went to heaven, I can promise you ain't talking to her. And if she's somebody who went to hell, I can promise you ain't talking to her. It's just easy. Anyways, necromancers. Do what? Do you not know what necromancers is? What's necro? Dead stuff. There's a crime in this country, and I pray to God nobody ever gets charged with it, or at least commits it to have that crime. Yikes. Necrophilia. Do you know what that crime is? Sexual relations with a corpse. It happens, and it's creepy. Of course they call it aphilia, so now it's a disorder. No, that's just sick. That's just pretty sick. So necromancy, more or less, the dealing with the dead, right? Mexico has a whole holiday dedicated to that. There's a whole lot of things that I just don't really, and I sound like a stick in the mud whenever people talk to me, but it's like, I don't think you need to talk to fortune tellers. I don't think you need to do the horoscopes or the tarot card readings and all that stuff like that, because you're only fiddling with demons. In fact, in book of Deuteronomy, it really talks about that in detail. And so this is another thing that we might ought to know, and that's the fact that if you're a king in Israel or a king in Judah, you're supposed to know your word of God. And so this goes in counter to everything of God. So verses 4-6, just like this is the death knell of how bad off this guy actually is. Now, it's bad enough to have the worship of it, but what's even worse is we don't mix that stuff with God. Make sense? Is that fair enough? Verse 7, and the